The physician passed me a covert message that simply said, "Avoid returning home. Flee." That evening, I uncovered the shocking truth. My relatives were scheming to institutionalize me in a care facility so they could seize all my possessions. Little did they realize, I possessed a hidden truth that could upend their existence. I'm Martha Caldwell, age 70. Over 45 years, I'd believed I'd nurtured a devoted son. Benjamin entered our lives at just 2, a forsaken child whom my spouse and I took in through adoption. Pouring out boundless devotion, I provided him with schooling, warmth, and decades of devotion. When my husband died 10 years back, Benjamin turned into my sole kin, joined by his spouse, Eleanor, and my granddaughter, Olivia. Yet on that Tuesday, at a standard medical checkup, everything shattered. Dr. Elliot Sterling, my reliable doctor for countless years, conducted the exam routinely, yet his demeanor felt unusual. His fingers quivered faintly while measuring my blood pressure, and he dodged, looking me straight in the eye. "All seems well, Mrs. Caldwell," he uttered, his tone tense. "Tests came back flawless. Heart's robust. Plenty of vibrant days await you." As I rose to depart, I sensed him drawing near from the rear. In a flash, as I reached for my handbag, Dr. Sterling subtly tucked a creased sheet into its depths. It happened so swiftly, I nearly missed it. "Stay well, Mrs. Caldwell," he added with a strained grin, "and keep in mind, kin aren't always as they appear." His remark chilled me to the core. What was he implying? Why the clandestine slip? I exited the clinic with my pulse racing, opting to delay opening the note until reaching home. On the taxi journey, endless worries swirled in my head. Dr. Sterling had never behaved oddly before. He was a solemn, expert figure who'd been acquainted with my household since Benjamin's teen days. What prompted these mysterious signals now? Upon getting home, I found Benjamin in the den alongside Eleanor and Olivia. They were murmuring softly but hushed instantly at my arrival. Eleanor clutched a stack of documents she hastily concealed. "How'd the visit go, Mom?" Benjamin inquired, his grin failing to light his eyes. "All good, dear," I answered, aiming for steadiness. "Doc says I'm fit as ever." Eleanor shot Benjamin a glance that caught my attention. Why the hint of letdown? Had they anticipated bad news on my condition? "Wonderful, Grandma," Olivia chimed in, though her tone carried an odd frost. "Gives you loads of moments to savor life." Over supper that night, my loved ones behaved peculiarly. Benjamin scarcely addressed me. Eleanor responded with curt words, and Olivia shunned my eyes. And palpable strain hung thick, sharp enough to slice. "Any issues?" I ventured at last. "Nope, Mom, all okay," Benjamin shot back hastily. "Just worn out." Post-meal, I retreated to my chamber feeling burdened. Clearly turmoil brewed, and the doctor's slip began clicking into place. Fingers unsteady, I retrieved the sheet from my bag and spread it open. The contents stole my air. "Mrs. Caldwell, your relatives visited yesterday. Eleanor probed your cognitive health, asking if I could declare you require assisted living. They aim to place you in a nursing home. They inquired, too, about your estate and holdings. Don't head home. Escape, Dr. Sterling." My grip shook wildly, my very own bloodline. The boy I'd cherished through rearing, the in-law I'd embraced as daughter, the grandchild who'd been my joy. Abruptly, pieces aligned, the odd stares, the murmurs, the stashed files. Their dismay stemmed not from my vitality, but rage that the doctor refused their scheme. Sleep eluded me that night. Each sound jolted me alert. I remained vigilant in bed, ears attuned, grappling with how I'd arrived here. How could the clan I'd devoted myself to now plot my downfall? At 2 Melkayem, murmurs drifted from the kitchen. I rose quietly and edged to my door. I distinctly caught Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia conversing softly, yet audibly enough for clarity. That blasted Doc refused to play along. Eleanor vented sharply. "I told him the elderly woman's mind is fading. She confuses faces at times, forgets the stove, but he swore she's entirely sound." Ease up, darling, Benjamin soothed. We'll locate a different physician, someone ready to endorse the forms. And meanwhile, what about her? Olivia pressed. I've secured my university slot in the U.S. I require those funds immediately, not years from now after she passes naturally from age. Olivia, watch your words, Benjamin rebuked. Dead, but with little real belief. Still, you're onto something. We must move quickly. The property's valued at nearly $500,000, and combining that with her retirement checks and nest egg, we'd be set until she finally passes. Eleanor wrapped up in an icy tone. Listen, I didn't sign up for this clan to babysit a doddering elderly lady. I wed you expecting you'd come into your fortune soon, yet a decade later, she's still lingering, draining our funds. Our funds, I echoed inwardly, a surge of fury building in my gut. Every penny I'd sweated over with my departed spouse, they treated as theirs. Tomorrow, I'll consult the attorney, Benjamin pressed on. I'll inquire if we can get her ruled unfit without involving a physician. There must be some loophole. And should that fail, Eleanor chimed in, we could simply render her days unbearable until she opts for a care facility on her own. Confiscate her television, skip preparing her meals, handle her like the load she truly is. Mom, that's too harsh, Olivia protested. Yet she tacked on, honestly, though, I'm worn out from faking affection for her. She's constantly hovering, interrupting our chats, questioning our late nights. It's unbearable. My knees started to shake. I pressed against the partition, sensing my reality fracturing beneath me. These were the folks I'd toiled for 18 hours daily when Benjamin was young, the ones I'd surrendered my aspirations, my bonds, my very existence to support. Recall my 15th birthday, Olivia went on. She picked out that awful crimson gown and made me don it. My pals all mocked me. Since then, I've vowed to settle the score with her one day. And the thing that irks me deepest, Eleanor piled on, is her constant boasting about being such a devoted parent, all the hardships she endured for Benjamin like she's some martyr. Reality check. She took him in because she couldn't bear her own children. She treated him as a patch for her void. That's sufficient, Benjamin cut in, yet his tone carried exhaustion, not outrage. Anyway, next week I'll have a chat with her. I'll explain we've located an excellent senior living spot, that it'd suit her better among peers her age. If she balks, we activate backup plan. What's the backup? Olivia queried. We drive her to genuine madness. Benjamin stated flatly. We tamper with her pills. We conceal her belongings. We accuse her of actions she never took. Within weeks, any specialist will diagnose her as unstable. The terror of his scheme struck me like a blow. They weren't just plotting to strip me bare. They aimed to shatter my psyche, my self-respect, my reason. They sought to mold me into the monster they already painted me as. Brilliant, Eleanor enthused. And after commitment, we'll control every asset, sell off the home, claim her benefits, liquidate it all without interference. Spot on, Benjamin agreed. Plus, the ideal twist, outsiders will see us as the devoted clan, tenderly tending to an ailing matriarch. They chuckled. All three erupted in mirth, as though they'd shared the ultimate punchline. They ridiculed me, my innocence, my unwavering devotion to them. Right then, a core piece of me snapped, not my spirit long since cracked from the physician's report. What shattered was my unwavering trust in kindness, my assumption that affection returns in kind, my certainty that kin bonds are inviolable. Come dawn, I'll duplicate all her cards, Eleanor murmured. Then we can dip into them gradually, keeping her in the dark. Excellent, Benjamin endorsed. Meanwhile, I'll sift through her documents, bound to be a testament we can tweak. Tweak in what manner? Olivia wondered. Imagine Grandma, lost in her fog, choosing to bequeath it all to us since we're her sole caregivers. Benjamin elaborated, a grin lacing his words. Dad, you're brilliant, Olivia praised. Still, we must tread lightly. What if suspicions arise? Nobody will question a thing, Eleanor soothed. No companions, no relatives beyond us, just an isolated senior, utterly reliant on our goodwill, who'd champion her cause. They spoke truth. I drifted from most acquaintances while pouring everything into raising Benjamin. No brothers or sisters. My folks had gone decades back. I stood utterly exposed. Yet what escaped their notice, what they'd never deigned to uncover, was my hidden ace. An ace poised to flip the dynamics entirely. Upon my husband's passing, he bequeathed more than tenderness and recollections. He granted a fortune I'd concealed through the years. $2. $2 million stashed in an overseas vault known solely to me, alongside 3 international holdings from his ventures. I'd withheld it from Benjamin, hoping he'd cherish me for my essence, not my wealth, desiring he forge his path independently, to break free. Yet now, it hit me that I'd been utterly naive. He'd never truly cared for me. He'd simply bided his time, hoping I'd pass away soon so he could claim whatever modest assets he believed I possessed. "All right," Benjamin stated at last. "I believe everything's settled. Starting tomorrow, we'll launch the scheme, and keep in mind, around her, we must continue acting like the devoted relatives we've portrayed all along." Naturally, Ella Lenina responded, "I'm a skilled performer. I can pretend to adore her just a bit more." I listened as their steps faded back to their bedrooms. I remained motionless, gripping the physician's letter tightly. He was correct. Escape was essential, but I wouldn't flee as a frightened casualty. I'd bolt like someone emerging from a 45-year slumber. I'd dash off to orchestrate the ultimate retribution they could never anticipate. The remainder of the evening passed in strategizing. Not a wink of sleep came my way, yet for the first time in ages, I felt utterly alert. Swift and clever action was key. They'd misjudged the feeble elderly woman, but they'd quickly learned they'd roused the incorrect adversary. By 5 a.m., confident the household slumbered, I quietly retrieved my tiniest valise and filled it with necessities alone. Vital papers, spare outfits, my pills, and crucially, the compact journal listing every aspect of my hidden funds. Prior to departing, I resolved on a move that could prove advantageous later. I grabbed my cell and switched on the audio capture. Then, feigning I'd overlooked an item, I retraced my path through the residence, ensuring I neared Benjamin and Eleanor's quarters. Sure enough, they were stirring, murmuring over the day's agenda. Eleanor discussed duplicating my cards as Benjamin referenced his meeting with the attorney regarding the incapacity filing. "Could she sense something's off?" Eleanor inquired, anxious. "No chance," Benjamin shot back. "She's far too aged and gullible. Plus, what recourse does she have? No destination, no independent wealth, no companions. We're her sole support. It's pitiful," Eleanor sneered derisively. "A 70-year-old utterly reliant on us. At times I pity her, but then I recall she opted for this existence. She might have wed again post her spouse's death, yet she elected to linger as the ideal grandma, and she'll atone for that choice now." Benjamin wrapped up icily. "Excellent. I'd captured sufficient evidence to bury them." With that, I stowed the device and completed my preparations for exit. On the kitchen counter, I left a message. "Off to handle a few tasks. Back soon, Martha." They wouldn't harbor doubts. After all, a doddering senior executing a calculated getaway was beyond their imagination. A taxi carried me to the closest branch. Wednesday dawn offered a window before my kin noticed irregularities. There, I pulled out a substantial cash sum and confirmed my concealed holdings remained secure. The clerk, a youthful lady called Patricia, eyed me inquisitively as I requested $5,000 in bills. "Certain about this, madam?" she queried, her worry authentic. "That's quite a hefty bundle to tote in currency." "Absolutely certain," I affirmed resolutely. "Personal affairs demand it." Next, another ride whisked me to the city's finest lodging. I required a sanctuary for safety amid plotting further steps. The Grand Imperial Hotel suited, ideally, subtle, plush, cozy, and offering amenities for seclusion. Duration of your stay? Inquired the front desk attendant, a poised lady in her 40s. Unsure, I said. Perhaps a week, maybe months. Hinges on family developments. She acknowledged with poised empathy and granted me a 10th floor apartment. Ascending via lift, a blend of dread and thrill coursed through me. Decades on, I was choosing solely for my own sake. The apartment gleamed, expansive city view panoramas, tastefully appointed, stocked with all essentials. I sank into the lounge settee and, for the initial instant since the prior dusk, permitted sentiments to surge. Tears flowed. I wept over the 45 years devoted to nurturing a boy who viewed me as a hindrance. I wept for the slights I'd tolerated unknowingly. I wept for the self I'd lost upon morphing into their scorned, flawless Nana. Yet post-tears, I dried my face and commenced outlining. From the journal, I drafted a roster of priorities. Initially, reach my international fiscal experts to unlock those funds. Next, engage the top legal mind locally. Then, secure a discreet sleuth to chronicle my relatives' misdeeds and schemes. At 2 hours that afternoon, my cell phone began buzzing insistently. It was my son, Benjamin. "Mom, where on earth are you? It's already 2 p.m. And you still haven't returned." His tone carried a mix of anxiety and underlying frustration. "I'm okay, Benjamin," I answered steadily. "I chose to spend the day on my own. It's been ages since I last did something like that." "A day just for you. What exactly does that entail? And precisely where are you right now?" His irritation was unmistakable now. "I'm here in town handling a few personal matters that couldn't wait," I said, not entirely truthful. "No need to fret. I'll head back once I'm done." "Mom, this isn't your usual self. You always keep us in the loop about your whereabouts. Eleanor's anxious and so is Olivia. We all need to know you're safe." For the first time in ages, I picked up on an unfamiliar edge in his words, sheer alarm. But it wasn't truly about my safety. It was about him losing his grip on the situation. "Listen, Benjamin," I responded with an unexpected poise that caught even me off guard. "I'm 70 years old now. I believe that's plenty old enough to decide for myself where I go and how I spend my time." Silence stretched across the connection. "Mom, you're freaking me out. You don't sound right. Have you taken your meds?" he probed. In that moment, I recognized the first hint of their ploy. He was subtly suggesting I wasn't in my right mind. "I'm doing great, son. Better than ever," I shot back before ending the call. Right away, I powered down my phone. I figured they'd bombard me with calls, and I required some quiet to focus on my next moves. Later that day, I engaged the city's top legal practice. The lead counsel, Dr. Graham Montgomery, a sharp professional in his 50s, met with me directly once I referenced the substantial fee I was prepared to offer. "I require full legal safeguards," I outlined. "My relatives are scheming to label me incompetent so they can seize my fortune, but I've got audio evidence showing it's all a plot." Dr. Montgomery paid close attention as I shared the recordings from earlier that morning. His face hardened with each passing second. "Mrs. Caldwell," he concluded gravely, "this is grave indeed. What your kin are orchestrating amounts to elder mistreatment, a plot to perpetrate fraud, and possibly falsifying records. We have grounds to pursue criminal charges against them." "That's precisely my goal," I affirmed resolutely. "However, I want to approach it smartly. I intend for them to suffer, but in the way that hurts them deepest." A knowing grin crossed Dr. Montgomery's features, the look of someone who'd just landed an intriguing challenge. "Mrs. Caldwell, I suspect we'll make an excellent team," he declared. "I'll put my top associates on this, but I must hear every detail from you, every single one." I opened up about adopting Benjamin, my late husband, the decades of devotion, the hidden fortune, laying it all out. Dr. Montgomery jotted notes diligently. "Do you have the exact figure for those concealed funds?" he inquired. $2. $2 million in liquid assets plus 3 international properties valued at around $1. $5 million additional, I stated. He paused his pen and regarded me with fresh admiration. Mrs. Caldwell, you're far from a mere target of familial betrayal. You're a formidable force that's been overlooked by your own blood. We'll harness that strength to deliver the reckoning they deserve. For the first time in recent memory, a real smile broke across my face. The battle was underway, but at last I wielded the proper arsenal. That evening, settled in my spacious hotel room, I switched my phone back on to scan the notifications. 37 unanswered calls from Benjamin, 15 from Eleanor, and 8 from Olivia. The texts escalated in urgency. "Mom, pick up. We're truly concerned, Martha. If you ignore us, we'll alert the authorities. Grandma, where are you? Dad warns you're courting danger." I chose to respond solely to Benjamin. "All's well. Stop fretting. I'll return on my terms." His reply pinged back instantly. "Mom, this behavior is off. Get home immediately. Eleanor prepared your go-to meal." His so-called favorite dish, as if after 4+ decades he was clueless that Eleanor had never once whipped up anything thoughtful for me. Just more deceit, more strings being pulled. The following morning, Dr. Graham Montgomery reached out bright and early. "Mrs. Caldwell, I've got some compelling updates. My investigator jumped on your matter and unearthed a key find. Your daughter-in-law, Eleanor, has spent the last 6 months swiping your details to open credit accounts in your name." "What?" I gasped, a surge of outrage swelling inside. "She's racked up 5 unauthorized cards totaling $43,000 in charges. High-end shops, lavish dining spots, and even a getaway to the Florida Keys just last month," the attorney detailed. "But I never set foot in the Florida Keys," I protested, bewildered. "Indeed not, ma'am. They did. Your family jetted off for a full week's escape on your dime, all while claiming they were off to see Eleanor's." The recollection struck me like a thunderbolt. I recalled that entire week with crystal clarity. Eleanor had sobbed, explaining that her mom was gravely sick and they had to rush over to look after her. I'd handed them cash for the journey on top of the funds they'd already swiped using those phony credit cards. "What additional findings did your detective uncover?" I inquired, dreading his response. "Your boy Benjamin got fired from his position 8 months back, yet he kept it hidden from you. He's been dipping into your nest egg and retirement funds to get by. Furthermore, we've learned he's reached out to 3 separate physicians in search of one who'd declare you afflicted with senile dementia. Each disclosure cut like a sharper knife. Not just had they schemed to plunder me, but they'd been siphoning my resources for months already. Not only were they aiming to brand me as deranged, they'd already kicked off the scheme." "And what of my granddaughter, Olivia?" I questioned, my voice cracking. "She's harboring her own deceptions, Mrs. Caldwell. At 3 months along in her pregnancy, she's deceiving her folks about the baby's dad. It seems the actual father is a 50-year-old married fellow who vowed to ditch his spouse, but now he's washing his hands of the child entirely." "Oh, Lord," I murmured. My granddaughter, the young girl I'd helped nurture, was tangled in a mess that might shatter her prospects. "There's even more," Dr. Montgomery went on. "Eleanor has been carrying on an affair with your neighbor Dave for the last 2 years. My detective has photos and footage that confirm it. Dave, the husband of Carol." I probed, picturing the kind-hearted lady next door. Precisely. It looks like Eleanor and Dave rendezvous at a motel every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, all while Benjamin assumes she's off at yoga. The twist was savage. As they plotted to dismantle my world by labeling me unhinged, every one of them was entangled in falsehoods that painted them in a far uglier light than I'd ever envisioned. "Dr. Montgomery, I need you to compile a full record of all this," I instructed him, steeling my resolve anew. "Every falsehood, every pilfering, every act of disloyalty. I want solid proof ready when I face them down." "Absolutely, Mrs. Caldwell, though I have an idea. Rather than clashing with them right away, how about we allow them to sink themselves further? That day, I resolved to indulge in something I hadn't touched in ages: shopping for fresh outfits. I headed to the poshest boutiques downtown and picked out 3 stunning gowns: a sleek black number, a bold crimson one, and a vivid emerald piece that filled me with strength. I added stylish new footwear, a real leather purse, and even treated myself to a makeover at the town's premier hair salon. The stylist, a lively young lady called Sophia, spent 3 full hours on my locks. "Madame, your hair is gorgeous," she remarked while styling it. "Why on earth have you let it go like this?" For ages, I figured it wasn't worth fussing over myself, I answered candidly. I believed my role was just to fade into the background as the grandma who tended to everybody else's needs. "Those times are finished," Sophia stated with conviction. "Once I finish, you'll shine like the royalty you truly are." She nailed it. Gazing into the mirror, I barely knew the reflection staring back. My hair sported a chic, sophisticated trim with subtle highlights that brightened my features. I felt invincible. That evening, over a meal at the hotel's dining spot, I picked up the phone to reach Benjamin. "Mom, at last, where in the world have you vanished to?" His tone brimmed with anger, not concern. "Focusing on me for once, son," I answered steadily. "You see, I haven't carved out personal time in forever. It's been quite eye-opening." "Mom, enough of this nonsense. You can't vanish without a trace. We're your kin. We deserve to track your whereabouts." "Deserve," I echoed, letting the term linger. "When did my loved ones earn control over my life?" "Ever since you began behaving unpredictably," he shot back. And just like that, he was sowing doubt again, hinting at my supposed mental fragility. Unpredictably. Does it strike you as odd for a 70-year-old to claim a bit of solitude? Absolutely, especially from someone who's never pulled anything like it before. Mom, you really ought to see an expert. Your actions are downright peculiar. An expert. I feigned bewilderment. Like what sort, Benjamin? A therapist, Mom. A professional to sort out these odd shifts in your demeanor. Spot on. He was laying bare his agenda during a conversation I was taping. "You know, you're onto something, son." "I could use some expert guidance," I said. I caught his relieved exhale across the connection. "I'm relieved you're seeing sense, Mom." "Oh, I see it all too clearly. I require an authority on familial scams, on mistreatment of the elderly, and on mind games, because that's precisely the treatment you've all inflicted on me." The quiet from his side was overwhelming. "Mom, what on earth do you mean?" "I'm saying I know it all, Benjamin. The bogus credit cards that Eleanor opened using my identity. I'm fully aware of your scheme to get me labeled as mentally unfit. I've learned about the physicians you've reached out to. I know it all." "Mom, that's absurd. I have no idea what you're referring to. You seriously require professional treatment. And here's something else I'm aware of, Benjamin. I know you got fired 8 months back and have been surviving on my funds while deceiving me directly. I know about that getaway to the Florida Keys funded by my pilfered cash. I know plenty more details that will shock you deeply when they surface in the courtroom. You're hallucinating," he claimed, though his tone lacked conviction now. Hallucinating. "Just last evening I overheard you scheming to drive me truly insane by altering my prescriptions. Is that imaginary too?" The quiet stretched out even further this time. "Mom, return home. We can discuss this together as relatives. No, Benjamin, we're done being family. Relatives don't deceive you like you did me. Relatives don't plot the psychological ruin of one member just to grab their wealth. Mom, I beg you. What I'll offer is a single opportunity, only one, to admit it all, express real remorse, and repay every dollar you've taken from me. If you manage that, perhaps, just perhaps, I might discover a path to pardon you." "We've got nothing to admit," he responded. Yet his words shook noticeably. "In that case, we'll meet in court, my boy. Sleep well." I ended the call, And for the first time in days, a profound calm washed over me. The battle lines were drawn, and I held every advantage. The next few days turned into an emotional whirlwind. My cell kept buzzing with frantic pleas from my kin. Initially, they attempted affection. Tearful voicemails from Olivia expressing how she longed for me. Shaky tones from Eleanor seeking pardon for any mix-ups. And urgent requests from Benjamin imploring me to return so we could sort it out. Once that approach failed, they turned to threats and coercion. Benjamin sent a recording warning. "Mom, if you don't get back here right away, we'll need to pursue legal steps to safeguard you from your own actions. Your unstable conduct is pushing us towards seeking guardianship." But Dr. Graham Montgomery had readied me for such moves. "Mrs. Caldwell," he counseled in one of our sessions, "allow them to submit the guardianship request. It'll serve as prime proof of their actual motives. Plus, we've secured evaluations from 3 unbiased psychiatrists confirming your sound mental state." In the meantime, my hired detective had been working overtime. Daily updates arrived, each more astonishing than the previous. "Mrs. Caldwell," he reported at our Friday session, "your relatives have ramped up their efforts since your vanishing. Yesterday, Benjamin visited your bank, attempting to tap into your holdings by claiming you'd endured a breakdown, and he required interim control of your assets." "How did the bank respond?" I inquired. Luckily, the branch head is highly ethical. He informed Benjamin that formal court papers were essential for any alterations to your finances. But Benjamin pressed so hard they escorted him out. And there's additional news. Indeed, Eleanor has started offloading your possessions. Just yesterday, she listed various antique furnishings of yours on an e-commerce site. She even attempted to hawk your jewelry set at a pawnbroker's, but the evaluator turned her down since the items clearly came from someone elderly, and she lacked proof of ownership rights. My pulse raced. Those gems were heirlooms from my departed spouse, rare items he'd gathered across years. "What about my granddaughter, Olivia?" I questioned, emotion swelling in my voice. "She's been the busiest by far. She's spreading word to her circle that you're battling severe dementia, and the clan is weighing institutionalization for you. She's also leveraging this tale to solicit loans from contacts, claiming the cash is for your grandma's health expenses." Each disclosure stung worse than the one before. They weren't just robbing me. They were tarnishing my name and exploiting my alleged condition to sway others. But the real twist comes next. The sleuth went on. "Overnight, all 3 met at your residence with a fellow our contacts pegged as Paul Hayes, a notorious falsifier in the local shady circles." "A falsifier?" I echoed, chills coursing through me. "It seems they're gearing up to fabricate bogus health records declaring your cognitive impairment. Paul Hayes excels at inventing phony patient files and mimicking physicians' autographs. This exceeded my worst fears. They didn't just aim to plunder me. They were prepared to perpetrate grave felonies to pull it off." "Dr. Montgomery," I stated via phone that very afternoon, "I believe it's time to AC we need to speed up our strategy right away. If we delay further, they'll end up with forged papers that could make everything far messier." "I concur, Mrs. Caldwell. Are you prepared to launch the second part of our scheme?" That second stage was genius in its straightforward approach. Rather than facing them head-on, we'd allow them to expose their own wrongdoing in plain sight. Come Monday morning, I slipped into my fresh, sophisticated black gown, adorned myself with my finest accessories, and made my way to the upscale real estate firm in town. I'd scheduled a viewing for high-end residences, particularly those priced above $1 million. Mrs. Caldwell, the agent, a polished fellow by the name of Rick, welcomed me warmly. "Delighted to make your acquaintance. I hear you're in the market for a top-tier residence." "Spot on," I responded assuredly. "I'm seeking a home that suits my fresh chapter. Classy, contemporary, and well-protected. Ideal. I've got a trio of options that should catch your eye." Little did Rick realize, my hired detective had orchestrated the whole setup flawlessly. Right at 11 a.m., as we toured the second estate, Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia were set to show up unexpectedly at the very same agency. We were deep into inspecting a stunning villa when I caught the sound of voices I recognized echoing from the front foyer. "Pardon me," I told Rick. "Sounds like some folks I know have just walked in." As we descended to the reception area, sure enough, the trio stood there in their fanciest outfits, chatting with a different agent. "We're looking to offload a piece of real estate," I overheard Benjamin declare. "It's my mom's place, but she's under the weather, so we've got legal authority to manage her matters." "Authority?" The agent probed. "Mind showing me the paperwork?" The formal docs are still in the works," Eleanor answered with evident unease, "but it'll only take a few days. We'd like to kick off the valuation ahead of time." "Hey there, loved ones," I called out clearly from the staircase. They all spun around in unison, their shocked expressions straight out of a thriller film. Benjamin went ashen. Eleanor's jaw hung slack without a word, and Olivia actually recoiled a pace. "Mom," Benjamin stuttered. "What's going on? Why are you here? Seems like the exact same reason as you," I shot back evenly while descending the steps, "except I'm in the market to purchase, not unload." Rick, my agent, stepped forward with his polished grin. "You acquainted with these folks, Mrs. Caldwell?" "Regrettably, yes," I answered. "They're my kin, or so I believed up until lately." "Mom, we should discuss this," Benjamin insisted, aiming for command but coming off weak. "Discuss what?" "Exactly, Benjamin. Your scheme to peddle my home behind my back. The phony paperwork you're cooking up, or that so-called power of attorney you just brought up, which is pure fiction." The second agent appeared baffled and distinctly uneasy. "Sorry to intrude," he cut in, "but if there's a dispute over ownership, we can't move forward on any evaluation until it's cleared up." "No dispute here," Eleanor pleaded frantically. "It's just, she's not been herself mentally of late." "Not myself, mentally." I echoed sharply, ensuring my voice carried across the entire office. "Is that your excuse for why I'm here? Snapping up $1.5 million pad with my personal funds?" Rick's mouth fell open in astonishment. $1.5 million, Olivia muttered under her breath. "Oh, indeed, my sweet grandkid," I replied with a sugary grin. "Your supposedly doddering granny turns out to have way more cash than you'd imagined." I pulled out my cell and rang Dr. Montgomery. "Doctor, I'm over at Richardson Associates Realty. My relatives are attempting to hawk my asset without permission and insisting they hold power of attorney for my decisions. Might you dispatch a staffer from your practice to record this incident?" "Absolutely, Mrs. Caldwell. Expect someone shortly, in about 15 minutes. I ended the call and eyed my family with an unexpected poise. "All right, we'll hold tight for my attorneys to show," I declared, "and they'll lay out for all present precisely what legal papers you possess, how you came by them, and your supposed basis for auctioning off my property." Benjamin edged closer. "Mom, it's all a mix-up. We can sort it privately at the house." "Absolutely not," I stated resolutely, retreating a step. "There's zero to resolve back home anymore. I don't even call it home if it means sharing with you lot." Eleanor started sobbing, though it struck me as fear-driven rather than genuine remorse. "Martha, come on, we're blood. All our actions were meant to help you." "Help me?" I questioned, my tone sharpening. Pilfering my savings via bogus credit cards was to help me. Scheming to fabricate health records was to help me. Bringing in a shady operator to invent my medical background was to help me. Every charge landed like an explosion in the agency's entrance hall. The other visitors and staff had paused to eavesdrop, and I noted the looks of revulsion and dismay etched on their features. You see, you have no clue," Olivia fibbed frantically. "Is that so?" I pulled out my cell and hit play on one of the audio clips I'd captured. Benjamin's words echoed through the room. "We'll drive her absolutely insane. We'll tamper with her pills. We'll stash her belongings. We'll convince her she committed acts she never did. Within a month, any physician will declare her unstable." The hush in the property agency's space was overwhelming. I watched as disgust and outrage twisted the expressions of staff and customers alike. "That tape is against the law," Eleanor screeched wildly. "Not here," I answered steadily, "and absolutely not when it's meant to stop an impending offense." Just then, 2 attorneys from Dr. Montgomery's practice showed up, accompanied by a certified notary. "Mrs. Caldwell, we're with Montgomery and Associates. We've heard there are individuals here asserting control over your matters." "Correct," I confirmed. "I'd appreciate it if you'd formally record that these 3 lack any legal sway over me, my assets, or my funds, and that any such overreach amounts to deceit." One attorney turned to Benjamin. "Sir, may I see the papers backing your right to dispose of Mrs. Caldwell's holdings?" Benjamin gaped silently, floundering like a stranded fish. "We're working on it. In essence, they possess nothing," I stated flatly. "Since they hold no power, what they do possess is a scheme to plunder all I have." The public shaming in that agency marked only the start. As we exited the structure, my relatives trailed me onto the pavement, switching between rants and begs. "Mom, hold on," Benjamin called out. "Can't we sort this out? It's just a massive mix-up." "Grandma, I beg you," Olivia sobbed. "I adore you. You can't treat us like this." Eleanor, meanwhile, ditched her act of affection. "You're a spiteful crone," she bellowed as I climbed into my taxi. "You've exploited us for decades. Benjamin devoted his prime years to you, and this is your thanks. His prime years." I leaned out the window toward her. "Are you referring to the time I toiled 18 hours daily to sustain him? The period I sacrificed my profession, companions, and outings to nurture him? The time you opted to take him in," Eleanor shot back bitterly. "Nobody made you, and now you act like we owe you forever." "I don't act like you owe me thanks," I responded with icy composure. "I merely expect you won't rob me, won't turn against me, and won't scheme to unhinge me for my wealth. Clearly, that's asking too much." I instructed the driver to pull away, abandoning my kin, hollering on the sidewalk. That evening, Dr. Montgomery called me in for an emergency session. "Mrs. Caldwell, I've got remarkable updates," he announced, beaming in a way I'd never witnessed. "Your relatives slipped up badly following the agency fiasco." "What sort of slip?" In their panic, Benjamin rushed to the forger, Paul Hayes, and forked over $50,000 up front to hasten the bogus health papers. $50,000. How'd they scrape that together? From cards they opened using your identity. And it seems Eleanor offloaded her vehicle. But the real kicker: Paul Hayes works as an FBI mole. For the last 6 months, he's aided officials in breaking up a forgery network. I sat stunned briefly. "So you're saying my family faces probes not just for domestic swindling, but now federal scrutiny for plotting fake medical records. The FBI holds full audio and video of the deal." Later that night, from my suite, I resolved to tackle what I'd delayed. I'd challenge each relative one-on-one, but remotely. I envisioned something far stronger. I fired up my computer and set up a profile on the nation's top video broadcast site. My heading was straightforward yet striking. A grandmother reveals her family's secrets. At 8 p.m., I launched my debut broadcast. Initially, just 3 watchers, but astonishingly, the count surged. "Hello there," I greeted the lens straight on. "I'm Martha Caldwell, 70 years young, and this evening I'll share a tale that shatters illusions of flawless kin." Within 20 minutes, over 500 tuned in. By the hour's close, more than 3,000. I revealed it all, from Benjamin's adoption to Dr. Sterling's hidden memo, from the phony cards to their plot to unravel my sanity. I aired the clips, displayed my gathered files, and dissected every act of disloyalty with sharp clarity. The chat overflowed with backing. Such a vile clan. "Mrs. Caldwell, you're a true earlier. Take them to court. Force them to cover every penny. My own grandma faced a nightmare like that. Kudos for your courage in sharing this." But the real turning point hit right during my broadcast when a call came in live. It was from Olivia. "Grandma, kill that feed, please," she begged. "You're wrecking our world." "I'm wrecking your world," I echoed loudly enough for the audience to catch it. "Haven't you all wrecked mine long before now?" "Grandma, the whole world's seeing this. My buddies, my profs, the entire campus. I can't even step outside. And imagine how I'd feel if you'd locked me away in some facility without consent, labeled me unfit in the head, and swiped every dime I had. That wasn't the plan at all. We were merely looking into possibilities." Looking into possibilities, I bellowed, shattering the calm I'd held onto for days. "Olivia, I basically parented you from infancy. I handled your nappies. I drove you to classes. I nursed you through illnesses. And there you were, grinning away as your folks plotted my downfall." The quiet from her side felt endless, yet the chat lit up like fireworks. Spill the beans to her. "That kid's got no shame. Stay strong, Mrs. Caldwell. Don't let her twist this." "Grandma," Olivia whispered at last, her tone cracking. I require funds for school and stuff." "You thought?" "Go on, what exactly did you think, Olivia?" "You figured I was your endless ATM. You imagined teaming up to push me over the edge, then dipping into my savings for your tuition. It's not that way." "So what's the real story? Lay it out for the 4,000 folks tuned in at this moment. Tell them why you blabbed to your circle that you needed a loan to cover my health bills when I was totally healthy." Another hush fell, then a faint murmur. "How'd you find out?" "I'm not the doddering fool you pegged me for. I know it all, Olivia, every bit, right down to secrets about you that even your parents haven't heard." "What? What secrets?" "The kind that could torpedo your prospects way worse than this broadcast ever could." She clicked off in an instant, but the harm was sealed. The audience had just caught my grandkid all but confessing she was in on the scheme against me. 5 minutes passed, and my cell buzzed once more. Now it was Benjamin, his voice boiling with rage. "Mother, shut down that feed immediately," he thundered. "Hello, Benjamin," I cooed back. "Care to chat with the 5,000 watchers joining us?" "This is libel. I'll drag you to court for defamation." "Defamation? Does it count as that when I broadcast tapes of you plotting to unhinge me? Or when I display account records showing you've been siphoning my cash for months?" "Those tapes break the law." "Not here in this state, kiddo, especially not if they're captured to stop a felony. But hey, care to tell everyone why you shelled out $50,000 to a fake paper guy just yesterday?" The pause stretched so far, I figured he'd bailed. "How? How in the world did you learn that?" "Turns out, Paul Hayes works with the feds as a tipster. Benjamin, hats off, you're now under scrutiny not just for kin swindling, but for a nationwide plot." "That's a lie." "Want a wager? Scan the headlines come dawn, or hold tight for the suits at your doorstep." The chat erupted into chaos. "FBI, FBI, FBI. That clan's headed for the slammer. Mrs. Caldwell's a sleuth. Fair play for Nana." "Mom," Benjamin choked out, his earlier fire gone. "End this, I beg you. We can patch things up." "We're blood, right, Benjamin?" I shot back, my voice heavy with real regret. "Blood doesn't stab in the back. Blood doesn't pilfer. Blood doesn't scheme to shatter one person's mind. What you've built isn't blood. It's a syndicate with the same surname. We poured 45 years into you." "You didn't pour 45 years into me. I poured 45 years into you. I surrendered it all on your behalf. And you lurked, eager for my end so you could claim what you assumed was yours." "We desperately need that cash, Mom. Debts piling up, messes everywhere, and that's your justification for gaslighting me, for looting me, for torpedoing my final chapter." It wasn't meant to hit home. Those words lingered like a final verdict, not meant to hit home. 45 years of devotion, effort, loyalty, and for him, just business. "You're spot on, Benjamin," I concluded. It wasn't personal on your end, so moving forward, it won't be on mine. Catch you in the courtroom." I disconnected and faced the lens. "There you have it, friends," I added with a wistful grin. "That's the crew I call family. I'll pick up the tale tomorrow. Sleep well." I signed off to more than 7,000 onlookers and a flood of encouraging notes. For the first time in ages, I drifted off knowing I wasn't fighting solo anymore. Come morning, my device was buzzing nonstop with alerts. The stream had blown up online. Thousands cheered me on, plus scores of offers from news networks for chats, teas, and to my astonishment, a flood of notes from fellow seniors who'd endured comparable ordeals. One note read from Mrs. Caldwell, "My boy pulled the very same stunt. Thanks for your boldness in sharing this tale. It's pushed me to act." Another came from a lawyer focused on senior mistreatment. "Your situation is classic. Reach out if you require more support. I'll assist for free." Yet the one that struck me deepest was from a social worker called Carol Sterling. "Mrs. Caldwell," she wrote, "I'm in social services. Only the day before, your live session helped me stop a clan from institutionalizing their 75-year-old dad. Your bravery is protecting fellow elders. Dr. Montgomery rang me at 9 a.m. "Mrs. Caldwell," he announced, his face lit with an unfamiliar grin. "I've got updates that'll transform it all." The FBI nabbed Paul Hayes overnight, and during questioning, he spilled every detail on the deal with your relatives. The works. He not only owned up to Benjamin bribing him to fake health records, but also exposed how your kin had him draft a phony will in your name, bequeathing it all to them while labeling you mentally unfit at the signing. It hit me like a gut punch. A bogus will. Clearly, their scheme ran deeper than we'd imagined. They meant to leverage those sham documents to commit you. Next, they'd trot out the counterfeit will and bide their time until you're passing in the care facility to claim it all legally. "My heavens," I murmured. "How far back did this plotting go?" Paul Hayes claimed Eleanor reached out to him 4 months prior. This wasn't some rash, spur-of-the-moment choice. It was a deliberate, cold-blooded plot. That very afternoon, as I mulled over these fresh revelations in my hotel room, an unforeseen call came through. It was Olivia, and for the first time in weeks, her tone carried real devastation. "Grandma, could we chat? Just us two." "Why, Olivia? So you can feed me more falsehoods, so you can tug at my heartstrings." "No, Grandma. To lay it all bare. The full truth. I can't bear it any longer." Something in her plea gave me pause. I chose to gamble. "Fine, but we'll do it somewhere public with people around, and I'll tape the whole exchange." "Anything you say, just yes." We linked up at the hotel's lobby coffee shop. Olivia showed up with puffy eyes from tears, clothes rumpled, a far cry from the self-absorbed young woman I'd recognized. "Grandma," she started right off before I could speak, "you must understand, I never intended for it to escalate like this." "Escalate to what, Olivia? What level seemed okay to you?" "Initially, Mom and Dad only mentioned persuading you into a high-end assisted living spot. They claimed it'd suit you better, with peers your age for companionship." "And your take on that?" I figured they might have a point. The place is huge for one person. You did appear isolated at times." She paused, locking eyes with me. "But that changed once I learned about the funds." "What funds?" They were clueless about my hidden accounts. "True, but they were aware of your retirement checks, the nest egg at the community bank, the property's worth. Mom had been digging for months, rifling through your files when you stepped out. She'd phoned the bank acting as you. She even visited your former employer to probe your pension details." Each disclosure cut sharper. "And once they realized persuasion wouldn't cut it," Olivia broke into sobs. "When Mom learned you might last another 20 years, she declared she wouldn't hold out that long. She craved the cash immediately." "What pressed her so hard for it right then?" to settle Dad's loans. He'd squandered heaps on gambling over the last 2 years. He owes more than $100,000 to some seriously risky folks. Yet another bombshell. Benjamin hadn't just been unemployed, he was hooked on betting with perilous IOUs. And your role in this mess. I wanted funds for school and extras. She absently rubbed her stomach. Extras like what, Olivia? I'm expecting, Grandma, she admitted at last. The dad's a wedded guy who wants zero involvement with the child. I need the money to figure out my next move. My chest ached for my grandchild, yet fury boiled inside too. So that's your excuse for joining a scheme to unhinge me. I had no idea they aimed to break you, she burst out, drawing stares from nearby patrons. I figured they just sought a doc to declare you required extra attention. What's the distinction, Olivia? I suppose there isn't one. She wept quietly for several moments. Grandma, after you departed the home, it all unraveled. Dad and Mom bicker non-stop. Mom blames Dad's betting entirely. Dad pins it on Mom's greed. And here I am, expecting and scared stiff. And now, what are you after from me? I need you to pardon me, and I also need you to realize that if you go ahead and give evidence against Mom and Dad, I'll spill the whole truth, all that I've learned, witnessed, and overheard. I stayed quiet for a moment, absorbing this surprising proposal. Why flip your allegiance at this point, Olivia? Last night, Dad confessed that if things fall apart, they'll pin it all on me, claiming I came up with the scheme to swipe your jewelry. They'll insist I tricked them into it because I was desperate for cash to feed a drug habit. Drugs. Grandma, I don't touch that stuff. But Dad argues it's easier to sell the story of the wayward teen than own up to their calculated plot. The ultimate stab in the back. They'd not only turned on me, but now they were prepared to throw their own child under the bus to shield themselves. Got any evidence to back up what you're saying? Olivia pulled out her cell phone. I've got audio of every argument they've had since you departed. Texts outlining their scheme to frame me. Footage of Mom tallying the profits from fencing your gems. Why capture all that on record? A week back, it hit me that once this blows over, they'll ditch me just the same. I'm still a minor, I'm expecting a baby, and I've got zero funds. They'll require someone to take the fall, and that someone's me. I gazed at her steadily, searching her face to see if this was yet another ploy or if truth was finally emerging. Olivia, should you choose to speak out against your folks, your world will shift irreversibly. Any bond with them will shatter beyond repair. That bond's long gone, Grandma. It ended the instant they dragged me into their scheme targeting you, only to later plan on offering me up to protect their hides. And in return for your statement, what do you seek? I need your support to graduate high school, guidance on handling my pregnancy wisely, and above all, I want you to show me how to stand tall and resilient, just like you. For the first time in weeks, a flicker of our former closeness with my granddaughter warmed me. Olivia, if you follow through and aid me in seeking justice, I won't just assist with your schooling or your circumstances. I'll impart something far more priceless. Like what? I'll show you that true family isn't bound by bloodlines, but by faithfulness, honor, and authentic affection. And that safeguarding your own well-being sometimes requires distancing from poisonous influences, even those bearing your surname. Olivia reached her hand over the table. Agreed, Grandma. I clasped it firmly, aware this exchange signaled the start of doom for Benjamin and Eleanor. Agreed, sweetheart. But from here on, you're my partner in this, and partners watch each other's backs, up for that duty, more prepared than for any challenge life's thrown at me. The trial date arrived sooner than anticipated. Within 3 weeks, Dr. Montgomery had assembled an airtight case, prompting even the high-priced attorney for my family to urge a guilty plea for a reduced penalty. Yet Benjamin and Eleanor dug in their heels. They insisted on a full courtroom battle, certain they could sway the jurors with their facade of a devoted clan tending to a befuddled elder. As the proceedings kicked off, I stepped into the courthouse in my sharpest dark ensemble, with Olivia by my side. She'd chosen to stay with me at the hotel throughout the ordeal. "Feeling anxious, Grandma?" she inquired while we ascended the steps. "Not at all, dear," I answered steadily. "I'm serene. Truth has a way of surfacing on its own." The room buzzed with spectators. My saga had exploded into nationwide headlines following coverage of my online broadcasts. Reporters, lenses, and crowds of seniors turned out in solidarity. Spotting Benjamin and Eleanor at the defendant's spot, they seemed like strangers. Benjamin had slimmed down, shadows etching hollows beneath his gaze. Eleanor appeared frail and jittery. The dread of lengthy incarceration had worn them ragged. The district attorney laid out the charges with skill. He played tapes of their schemes to unhinge my mind, displayed traces of embezzlement via cards, detailed the plot involving the fake paper expert, and capped it with documentation of the bogus loan against my home. Yet the pinnacle of drama unfolded as Olivia mounted the witness box for the state. "Miss Caldwell," the DA prompted, "could you recount what you overheard your parents plotting regarding your grandmother?" In a steady, resonant tone, Olivia detailed each discussion, scheme, and act of disloyalty. She outlined their intent to tamper with my pills, their estimates of gains from my passing, and their contingency to cast her as the culprit if plans unraveled. Her words hung in the air, met by utter hush. I noticed jurors dabbing at moist eyes. The defense counsel scrambled to undermine Olivia's credibility, implying she was fabricating the story just to extract cash from me. "Ms. Caldwell, isn't it the case that you're expecting a child and desperate for funds?" He pressed her sharply. "Yes, I am pregnant," Olivia responded with poise. "And yes, I require assistance, but I'm not fabricating anything to obtain it. I'm sharing the facts because honesty demands it. And isn't it awfully timely that your grandmother offered financial aid in return for your statement?" "My grandmother didn't offer payment for my account of events," Olivia countered steadfastly. "She pledged support because I finally mustered the bravery to act rightly. That's a key distinction." When my opportunity to give evidence arrived, I approached the witness box, sensing the intense gaze of everyone present in the chamber. "Mrs. Caldwell," the prosecutor inquired, "could you describe your emotions upon uncovering your relative's scheme?" "It was as if I'd existed in deception for 45 years, I answered. "They didn't merely deceive me. They compelled me to doubt every instance of affection I believed we'd shared. They left me questioning whether I was ever more than a barrier standing between them and my fortune." "And what are your feelings today?" "Today, I feel liberated," I declared, locking eyes with Benjamin. "Liberated from the falsehoods, the control, and the duty to cherish those who never truly reciprocated." The opposing counsel attempted to portray me as a spiteful, affluent lady, inflating the circumstances. "Mrs. Caldwell, isn't it accurate that you possess millions in assets you never disclosed to your kin?" "It's accurate that I hold assets they knew nothing about," I conceded. "But such holdings do not excuse plotting to undermine my sanity, usurping my identity, or fabricating official papers. Don't you believe your relatives merited knowledge of those funds?" "Merited? For what reason? For scheming my involuntary institutionalization, for pilfering from me over months, for the most heartless disloyalty imaginable." The proceedings spanned 5 days. Ultimately, the panel conferred for only 2 hours before delivering a fully agreed-upon decision. Guilty across every charge. Benjamin drew a 12-year term behind bars for plotting, deceit, document falsification, and mistreatment of the elderly. Eleanor got 10 years on those same offenses, along with extra penalties for mortgage deception. As the judge pronounced the punishments, Eleanor dissolved into sobs. Benjamin just gazed blankly into the distance. Once the hearing concluded and we exited the building, a journalist posed, "Mrs. Caldwell, do you believe fairness has prevailed?" "I believe the law has been upheld," I stated. Yet true fairness came from revealing my authentic self before time ran out to savor my remaining days. 6 months on, I acquired a charming residence on the city's edge. It's more modest than my previous home, yet it brims with brightness and features a delightful yard where Olivia and I pass our evenings. Olivia graduated secondary school with distinction and chose to raise the child. She's pursuing legal studies now, motivated by our shared ordeal. She aims to focus on safeguarding seniors. "Grandma," she confided recently while tending our garden, "do you ever wish you hadn't taken in Dad?" "I harbor no regrets about adopting him," I assured her, gently touching the blooms we'd set together. My sole lament is not grasping earlier that compassion ought never to come at the expense of one's own ruin. "And what wisdom did you gain from it all?" "I came to see that true kinship isn't bound by lineage or time spent side by side. It's forged through reciprocal regard, sincere allegiance, and boundless affection. I realized solitude with honor surpasses companionship marred by treachery, and I understood renewal can happen at any stage. At 71, I'm embracing the richest existence yet. I journey. I immerse myself in books. I cultivate fresh connections, and most vitally, I share a heartfelt bond with my granddaughter, who has emerged as the child of my soul I've long yearned for. Benjamin and Eleanor have reached out from incarceration multiple times, but their messages head straight to the bin, unread. Certain thresholds once sealed deserve to stay that way. Each evening prior to rest, I express gratitude for 3 elements: Dr. Sterling's boldness in alerting me, my unsuspected inner resilience, and the insight that conclusions can usher in fresh chapters if one dares to author their narrative. Compassion remains central to my world, but I wield it judiciously now. I aid fellow elders in parallel predicaments. I back Olivia's education and established a nonprofit to combat senior mistreatment. Yet above everything, I at last mastered self-love to match the devotion I'd extended to others throughout my days. And that, my friends, stands as the greatest insight.